Welcome to the True Man Podcast. This is an invitation to radical reconstruction of a man's masculine heart and soul in a place of safe community where we dare to ask questions deep seated inside a man and explore ways to help you become a better man, a better son, a better dad, and a better spouse. And I hope we can do that for you today. Heading into the final week of February as we move into March Madness, one of the funnest months of the year, isn't it? So, how are you? How's everything going in your life? How's your heart? How's your soul? Is anybody asking you those questions? Some days you wonder if anybody even cares. It's we're living in an interesting world, aren't we? More connected than we ever have been, but sometimes it feels like we're more isolated than we ever have been. Well, True Man is here to help you with that. We want you to get connected with the True Man community. So, I'd like to remind you, you can find my website at truemanlifecoaching.com. On that website, you'll be able to, of course, connect with the podcast. And you can also do that by just clicking on truemanpodcast.com. It takes you right to that page, and you can forward that to anybody or connect with your favorite platform. In addition to that, there's a number of things going on the True Man website. If you have a group and you're looking for a speaker, whether it be online or in person, you can check out my speaker page. You can check out my book page. I've got a book page too. So True Man, True Ways, the roadmap back to the masculine heart is on there. You can check out that book and of course purchase that and connect to the True Man community. Our newsletter that we are beginning here. Be a part of the True Man community. Don't isolate yourself. Don't do this alone. And I think that this podcast, at least I believe this podcast, can help you learn a lot about that. And of course, you can always connect with me. I love it when you do. I love it. I love it. I love it. So let's talk about something here. This is oh gosh, I don't know. I write what I feel, and in the moment sometimes we're fresh off the State of the Union address, we're fresh off the Olympics, we're fresh off seeing the Olympic hockey team, men and women, congrats to both, win gold medals. And it's been 40 years since the men have done that. Of course, back in the 1980 Olympics, back when we used to have amateurs versus professionals. Does that account for anything? Well, I'll tell you what, it's great when the United States wins a gold medal, but I don't know that anything can beat what happened back in 1980. But nonetheless, I want to talk to you about some of the division that feels like is going on. It doesn't feels like it is going on in this country, unfortunately. So, man, you know this. We're living in divided times, not just divided politically, divided culturally, divided morally, divided spiritually. And I think if we're being honest, a lot of us are divided in our own hearts over a lot of this stuff. It feels like there's just no middle ground on anything, virtually any issue anymore. I mean, you don't even know that you can walk into a party and what kind of havoc is going to break out based on whatever topic comes up. You either pick a side or you go to war online or in person, or you stay silent and you get labeled weak. Doesn't it just doesn't feel like you can win right now, does it? There's no room for conversation, no room for nuance, no room for common sense. And something inside, I think, of the average American, the average working man, the father, the small business owner, the coach, the veteran, well, we all know something's off, don't we? Now, I mentioned this earlier. Growing up, I loved the Olympics. I really do. I loved everything about it. The competition, the excellence, the pride of nations. The idea that a young man or a young woman would train their entire life for one moment in time to have a gold medal placed around their neck. Well, that flag was raised. Well, man, that was all about. Now, I will tell you, I did not watch the Olympics this year. I told my wife, I'm like, the first person that speaks out, I'm done. If they don't understand who's on the front of their jersey, we're done here. But that's not what I remember. I mean, growing up, it wasn't about politics. It wasn't about virtue signaling. It wasn't about branding. It was about discipline, sacrifice, country, honor. Now we can't even get through the doggone opening ceremonies without a political message being broadcast from the host nation or from the people broadcasting it. We barely get into the events before the athletes are declaring which politician they stand for or against. I got news for you, people. That's not why we're turning in. We just want to see you skate, pass the puck, or ski down a hill. Feels like everything is a platform right now. Everything's a message and everything's a fight. And I'll be honest with you, I hold very strong conservative and political values, deeply rooted in my Christian beliefs. I care about faith. I care about life. And I care about family. I care about the borders. I care about law and order and many other things. But here's something that God has been working on in me. At certain points, I became part of the problem instead of part of the solution, if I'm being honest. And what good are my comments if they're not grounded in sound mind? What good is my integrity if I'm shouting back at the very people I claim are the problem? What good is winning an argument if I lose the witness of Christ in the process? You see, Scripture says in 2 Timothy verse 1:7, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and sound mind. Power, love, sound mind, not rage, not impulsive reactions, not social media explosions. Man, we are losing our common sense. We are losing our common decency as people. We are just flat out losing our ability to love our neighbor, even when that neighbor votes differently than we do. And, that's not a political problem. That's a spiritual problem. So let's be honest. A lot of people, what we see right now isn't driven by conviction. It's really driven by attention. Outrage gets clicks. Division gets engagement. And fear gets numbers. Now, there are people intentionally spreading hate, stirring chaos, exaggerating narratives, not because they care about the truth, they don't, but because conflict monetizes. Murders, violence, public breakdowns, lawlessness, it gets replayed over and over again because it drives traffic online, on television, and everywhere else. And somewhere along the way, we started confusing becoming viral with virtue. We traded wisdom for retweets. We traded character for clicks. And the average American, the man who gets up every morning, works hard, pays his taxes, raises his kids, looks around and goes, what in the world is happening? Gosh, common sense felt like it used to be common. Now it just feels rare. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 22, verse 39, love your neighbor as yourself. That command did not come with a political disclaimer. It didn't say, love your neighbor unless they vote differently. Love your neighbor unless they disagree with you. Love your neighbor unless they offend you online. It said, love your neighbor. And loving your neighbor doesn't mean you surrender your conviction, but it does mean you abandon truth. It does not mean you ignore crime or chaos or broken systems. It means you carry truth with humility. It means you speak firmly without hatred. It means you pray for your so called opposition instead of lighting them up. This is something I have had increasing focus on for myself. When I feel something bubble up, I'm making every attempt to take it to prayer because that anger serves no purpose and really pulls away from my energy. What would happen if we actually had conversations where people listened? Let me repeat that. I know I just shocked many of you. What would happen if we actually had conversations where people listened? What if instead of starting with a rebuttal, we started with a question? What if curiosity replaced accusation? What led you to that view? What concerns are driving your position? What experiences shaped that perspective? How about a simple question like, how do you know that? Where did you read that? I mean, just curiosity questions. You don't have to agree, but you might understand. And understanding really lowers the temperature. And if we can lower the temperature, well, maybe we stand a chance to gain some degree of understanding. You know, there was a time when the three words of God, family, and country were really fundamental. Now, I'm going to be doing my best to bring this back over the next few months. You're going to hear me talk a lot more about this. This is not a political slogan, it is a basic foundation. God meaning accountability to something higher than self. Family meaning the basic unit of strength and stability. And country meaning gratitude for freedom and a willingness to protect it. Have we lost that? Not completely, but we've certainly diluted the message. When God is removed, self becomes supreme. When family breaks down, society fragments. When country is mocked instead of valued, unity dissolves. Now, this isn't about blind nationalism. It's about recognizing that ordered liberty requires moral structure. Freedom without virtue becomes chaos. We have a lot of that right now. We're watching it play out all over the place. I just saw some videos this morning, if I'm being current. It's large amounts of snowfall in New York City of idiots in New York City throwing snowballs and ice at police officers. Now, that's not freedom. That's chaos. So let's talk about crime, law, and order here. Let's talk about this. Crime matters. Lawlessness matters. You see, when violent offenders are released without consequences, communities suffer, don't they? We see this all the time. When theft is normalized, businesses close. I mean, you don't have to flip on the television 5 minutes to see people running in and out of stores with handfuls of stuff with no consequences. When police are undermined without reforming what needs reform, chaos fills the vacuum. Now, this is not about hate. This is about something very simple. Safety. If you got a problem, who are you going to call? I know Ghostbuster just went through your head, but I was thinking about 911 and the police. You know, the average American family should be able to walk in their neighborhood without fear, shouldn't they? Children should be able to play outside. Small business owners should not fear being looted while politicians debate semantics. Law and order are not oppressive concepts. They're just not. They're protective ones. And Romans 13 speaks about governing authorities being established to what? I don't know, restrain evil? Yeah. That doesn't mean governments are perfect. We know they're not. But it does mean structure matters. And when structure collapses, well, the innocent pay the price, don't we? Let's talk about something else here as well. Well, Mike is ranting and raving today. Borders and responsibility, ability. So this is another hard issue for sure. Our nation without borders is not compassionate. It's chaotic. And we saw this. We saw this. And now that our borders are completely closed, listen, it's not the good people we're trying to keep out. There is a right way and a wrong way to come in here. But there are people that hate us globally, that want to see us blown up, not do well. Okay? That's why those borders have to be closed. Now, when we can be compassionate and structured at the same time. We can welcome legally and still enforce the laws. We can care about human dignity while recognizing that uncontrolled systems create strain. We saw this happen economically, socially, and culturally. We were strained not more than a couple of years ago. And you know, the bottom line is the average worker, the average American worker feels this. When systems are overwhelmed, wages stagnate. When policies are unclear, communities struggle. It's not unloving to say that we need order. It's responsible. You know, a father protects the door of his home not because he has a dislike for outsiders. It's because he loves those who are on the inside. It's really that simple. That is not extremism. That's stewardship. That's love. And what about affordability? You know, as I've looked around the country at various places that we may want to move to or live, it has become abundantly clear to me that affordability is a huge problem in this country, and it's squeezing the American family. So affordability is a big problem. The cost of living, the cost of housing, the cost of groceries, the cost of healthcare is all rising. And when both parents must work nonstop just to survive, well, the family suffers, doesn't it? I think we're seeing that play out across this great nation. Time disappears, conversations disappear, dinners disappear, presence disappears. It all goes away. And no amount of social media likes are going to be able to replace a father at the dinner table. The average American likes luxury, but I don't think that they want it as much as they want stability. I think that they want to provide. I think that they want margin. They want to attend their kids' game, go to church, take a modest vacation. How about just sit on the front porch swing and breathe? But you know, when policies from any side crush affordability, families break under pressure. Are you feeling that? I think in a lot of ways our nation is feeling that. And when families weaken, society weakens. God designed family as the primary shaping force of our culture. Not government, not corporations, family. There it is. But here's where it gets a little personal. So before we point outward, we need to look inward. How about the man in the mirror? Where have I spoken out of anger instead of wisdom? Ask yourself that question. Where have I reacted instead of prayed? Where have I consumed outrage as entertainment? Where have I've been more passionate about being right than being righteous. You see, it's easy to critique politicians. We do it all day long. You can see it all over the television. But it's harder, isn't it, to critique ourselves? And if we want decency restored in this country, it really starts in our own homes. It starts with our own speech. It starts with our own tone. And James chapter 1, verse 19 says, "Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." Now, let's face it, that verse alone could revolutionize social media. We don't need more passive men on any of this. We need men with courage, men without contempt. We need courageous men. But courage without love, well, that becomes cruelty. And conviction without humility, well, that becomes arrogance. So truth without grace, well, that just becomes a doggone weapon. So really, this true man framework I think that we're talking about today is know God, know yourself, live fully. It definitely applies here. Know God, know yourself, live fully. Why do you need to know God? So your foundation isn't shaken by every headline. Know yourself so your insecurities don't drive your reactions, and live fully so you can engage in culture without being consumed by it. You know, the average American is just tired of all the doggone noise, aren't we? They want leaders who tell the truth, protect families, secure borders responsibly, address crime seriously, promote economic policies that allow people to breathe, and do it without acting like spoiled little children. You see, common sense isn't extreme. It's actually quite steady. So where is all this headed? You know, I've asked myself that question over and over again. It's conversations I've had with a lot of other people. Where in the heck is all this headed? If we continue prioritizing performance over principle, if we continue rewarding outrage over wisdom, if we continue sacrificing family on the altar of ambition, we will fracture further. But friends, here's the hope. Revival rarely starts at the top. It starts at the grassroots. It starts in our homes, in churches, in small communities, in fathers deciding to lead differently, in men deciding to speak with strength and restraint, in conversation that model curiosity over condemnation. I would steer you towards the ultimate role model, Jesus Christ, on that. So what if we committed to do this instead? How about we pray for those that we disagree with? I'm committing to this. Will you commit to this? Pray for those that we disagree with. Speak truth without venom. Support policies that protect life, family, and safety. Hold leaders accountable without dehumanizing them. Refuse to participate in all the online hoo-ha chaos. Prioritize dinner tables over digital platforms and model common sense for our children. What does that look like? Well, it looks like God, family, and country in that order, not as a slogan, but as a lifestyle. So here's your final challenge. Men, this is not about winning culture wars. It's about restoring culture through character. It's about remembering that love of country flows from love of God. It's about recognizing that if we lose family, we lose everything. And it's about understanding that the way forward is not louder, shouting. No, we don't need any more of that. It's about wiser leadership. Start with yourself Start with your house. Start with your words. Start with your own heart. Be a man of conviction and composure. Be firm and kind. Protect what matters. Pray for wisdom. And remember, the future of this nation will not be decided only in Washington, D.C. It's going to be shaped right there in your living rooms, at kitchen tables, in churches, on front porches, in the quiet decisions of men who refuse to surrender common sense and decency. Be that man. Be that man. Be that true man. That's how we rebuild this country. That's how we restore this country. That's how we live, is true man. Well, there you go. How about that? What do you think of today's episode? I'd love to hear from you about this episode. I really touched on a lot of things. I could have kept going. I could probably go on all day. But I like to limit these talks, to 20, 25 minutes or so. The average American commutes about 18 minutes. So if you're wondering where that's coming from, so you can fit something in your commute, in your car. But listen, I love this country. I love the American family. I love the foundation that built this country. And I hope you will learn to love it too. And we need to get back to that core values. There's many things that the devil is working on to pull us away from those values. Much, much more to come on this in the coming weeks. And boy, I've got a lot on this topic of God, family, and country. And, we're working on the American Family Renaissance Summit that you maybe have heard me talk about on the last few episodes. But it's so important to focus on yourself, focus on your family, focus on God. You will become the best man that you can be by focusing on those ideas and values. I promise you that, man. If you'd like to reach out to me and talk more about this, you can send me an email at mike@truemanlifecoaching.com. You can hop on my calendar. It's on my website at truemanlifecoaching.com. I enjoyed having you along for the ride today. Yes, please give me your feedback. And if you enjoyed the show, go out to your favorite podcast channel, leave me a great review, and share this with your friends and neighbors. Until next week, go out and make this your very best day ever. God bless you. And thank you for listening.